Americans have gotten so divided along political lines in recent years, it's like we're not even living in the same country. Or the same time period, literally. And that's not just impacting your social media feed. Data scientists have found that this is starting to influence major economic data points. I'll break down how we know just how big the partisan divide in the US is, how this is affecting economic reports that policymakers rely on, and how this could be affecting the US economy. Let's get into it. Data show that Americans have high savings, less debt, and there are literally more job openings than at any time in history. All signs of a healthy, growing economy. But we found out that US consumer sentiment in February was the lowest it's been in more than a decade. So what gives? This may have more to do with perception than reality. A recent report from the University of Michigan finds that partisan views now dominate consumers' economic expectations. And perceptions of the economy between Republicans and Democrats are the most divergent they've ever been. The readings have reached a staggering new level under the past two presidents, a 52-point gap between Republicans and Democrats. To put that number into perspective, the difference between how Americans rated the economy at its highest point in the University of Michigan survey, when the US was booming during early 2000, and when we were at its lowest point, during the inflation-driven recession of 1980, was only 46 points. Republicans and Democrats today have more different opinions of the economy than Americans who were in the middle of an economic boom and those who were suffering through a staggering recession. Here's how that's impacting the economic data that policymakers rely on. Listen, confidence matters. Investors, retailers, manufacturers, banks, the government, they all look to this confidence data to give them clues about what's coming next in the economy. This also matters for inflation. Expectations for inflation are one of the biggest factors in actual or realized inflation. And right now in the University of Michigan survey, we're seeing Republicans' expectations of inflation way above Democrats' expectations of inflation. In fact, Republicans' expectations may be too high, while Democrats' expectations may be too low. Here's how this is affecting the US economy. Weak consumer confidence has historically led to a decline in consumer spending, and we've seen that over the last couple months. If that continues, that can lead to lower consumption, which drags economic growth lower. That's especially important in a consumer-driven economy like the United States. Businesses look at these consumer sentiment readings too. Low consumer confidence numbers can cause manufacturers to decrease their inventories in advance. They might even delay investing in new projects or facilities. Banks see these numbers, and they can prepare for reductions in lending, like mortgages and credit cards. Now, none of that is to say that there aren't real issues hurting consumer sentiment right now. I spoke to the man who literally wrote the book on reading economic indicators, Bernard Baumol, chief economist at the Economic Outlook Group. He tells me that the depressing impact of COVID-19's Omicron variant and the rising cost of living have had a notable impact on sentiment. Those are the real factors, he says. Everything else is kind of fluff, but fluff is moving the needle. This hyper-partisanship can lead to a vicious circle of negative outcomes for both sides, according to Richard Curtin, who put together the University of Michigan's report. Richard tells me that Democrats are more likely to make poor investment decisions because they think the economy is better than it is and take too much risk. Republicans with low confidence are more likely to not invest in things like starting a business because they think the economy is worse than it actually is. As we've seen, when it comes to inflation, confidence, and investment, perception impacts reality. In Curtin's words, people have moved from economic evaluations to political evaluations, and that's making the job of economists and investors that much harder. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you're interested in markets, make sure to subscribe. As the elder Chuck D once said, "They claim that I'm a criminal. By now I wonder how. Some people never know. The enemy could be their friend, guardian. In short, don't believe the hype." I'll see you next time.